Hi everybody, it's Aubrey from Drafted with the Daily Draft, and today I'm here with Amy Spurling, who is co-founder and CEO at Compt. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks for coming over. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you give me just a brief overview, a little bit of history about Compt, your current company?
Sure. So we're about a year and a half old. The concept really came out of my experience as a CFO and COO of a bunch of companies where I started watching the shift in the market with how we handle compensation for people. It's no longer a salary negotiation. Everybody walks in knowing their range, and so it's what else do you add? And the problem is that everyone needs and wants something different, but the software out there just doesn't allow for that. So it assumes all millennials need student loan forgiveness. It's a great perk, but not everybody needs it. So how do you create that personalization? So that's what we're trying to bring to the table.
Through your experience, you've had a ton of experience in kind of like the financial realm of companies, and you've been a CFO at multiple companies. How has that helped pave your path to where you are now?
It's the entire genesis of the idea. So in my roles, I've managed finance and HR. So you raise all the money and then you deploy it by hiring a bunch of people. So you have to be really strategic and thoughtful about how you're scaling companies, who you put into place when, and how you build that out. And so that was the genesis for Compt. Was really I needed that 20 years of experience to be able to be yeah, this is a real problem and we need to go and solve it.
Right now, because you are a female founder, and so you have some experience in this realm, right now I'm going to read this because I don't want to get any of the facts wrong. Female founders receive 2.2% of all VC dollars, and less than 10% of VC firms have female decision makers, while 74% of all firms in the U.S. have no women at all.
Right.
You have a really strong background in the financials of a company.
Right.
So I would imagine you would have, kind of a leg up when you're going into these boardrooms and talking to VCs and trying to get funding for your company. But do you still face challenges too?
I do. It's interesting. So all of my prior CEOs were first-time founders. They all had fantastic products. I really believed in everything that we were building. But they were asked different questions than I get asked when I go into that room, which was a surprise to me because sometimes it was with the same exact people that I'd met with before. That was a surprise to me because I assumed that, I know there's a lot of unconscious bias, obviously, that happens in funding, but I assumed I'd be getting around that because I had the background and the pedigree to do it. That hasn't been the case, and so it's been a little bit eye-opening to me. There are some amazing VCs out there that are super focused on either our space or are just really appreciate what we're building. So it hasn't been a horrible story, but it has been a little eye-opening. That's okay, even with my background, and so 5 of my 6 companies have exited. 2 of them I was part of the acquisition process. Right. I've been part of raising over 15 rounds of capital. You don't get much more experience on that side coming into a company, and even with that, that doesn't give me a lot of credit, which was a little surprising.
Yeah, that is very surprising. Recently, you posted this graph on LinkedIn, and it kind of showed the disparities of female representation in VC firms. And with that, you shared the bill, the MA 939 bill.
Right.
What is the overall goal of this bill? What is this bill looking to accomplish?
I think the bill is really interesting. It basically takes the laws that are already in place for companies around hiring, you can't discriminate, you can't sexually harass employees, and extends it to investor relationships so that if you are discriminating against people who you would invest in based on, ethnicity or gender or race or whatever, you can't do that. So I think that's interesting because it is access to capital. We can't build companies without that capital. And if there's a blanket, we're not going to invest in X, which of course there's no statement like that, but the numbers are the numbers, and that is absolutely happening. Things need to change. What I think is interesting about the law is that it's similar to every time a discrimination lawsuit would come out for companies. There's a lot of concern within the corporate realm that, this is going to keep us from interviewing women or interviewing people of different ethnicities. We're not going to end up hiring them because we're terrified of getting sued. No one's bringing lawsuits. You can't, nobody gets sued as a company because you pass on one candidate that is in a protected class. But if you have a habitual, systematic approach to that, you're going to have to change that. And I think that's where this law is really interesting. No VC is going to get sued because they pass on a deal from a female founder. I don't feel entitled to anyone's money. But if me and every other female founder is not getting funded, that's a problem, and we need to change it.
What do you think is the biggest detractor, kind of keeping women from having a greater representation in VC firms?
It's the same thing as female founders getting funded by VC firms. I mean, there's a lot of bias, and a lot of folks are either struggle to get in or struggle to stay in VC firms. I think the more folks that we get over that hurdle, the better. So one of the things that we did here was in our angel round, we started a syndicate. And that allowed me to get a lot more folks for smaller checks who had never written a check. Some of these people they can be incredibly wealthy people, but they don't understand about angel investing and how that works.
Right.
And they don't want to look stupid by asking questions. And it was like, look, we're the guinea pig, write a small check, that's fine. We can pull them together, we keep the company healthy, but at the same time, you can start learning what that's like. Write $2,500 here, your next company, write $25. Like, start giving that access to deal flow so it's not a black box, and that I'm hoping will help move the needle, because I think we do need more diversity in our investor base as well. People invest in people like themselves. People hire people like themselves. Like, this is, for better or worse, I don't think going to change dramatically because of unconscious bias. It's not intentional. It just is what it is. So you have to go really far the other direction to try and make that better. And so that's where I'm trying to create more space for female investors.
Yeah, and I think we're in a unique time where we kind of have all the facts, we have all the figures, we know that there's something wrong, and so now it's like, well, where do we start?
Right.
What do we do? And I'm sure this bill is, just one step towards taking some action.
It feels like a really good step to me, because I'm not concerned that VCs are suddenly going to be loaded up with lawsuits. The people fundraising have no money. Like, let's be clear. Like, if you get passed on for a deal to raise a couple $1 million, are you really going to go spend a couple $1 million you don't have to sue a VC? Of course not. And so I'm not concerned that this is going to impact the actual financials for VC funds, but it may trigger them to think about how their deal flow is happening and which folks they are writing checks to, and start expanding that, which I think is important. When you look at companies, how many companies have 10 to 15% women, and that's it? They're not getting sued. Like, even with the discrimination laws that are out there, like, that hasn't changed that. We don't have quotas for how many people you have to have in your company. We don't have quotas for people of color, because that is an abysmal statistic across the board. So this isn't actually moving the needle on that, other than triggering, being like, you need to be more intentional and thoughtful about it. And if they're concerned about it, there's probably a reason. Because not all VCs are against that law. There's quite a few that are absolutely supportive of it, which is exciting to me, because it's recognition as a group that we need to change.
Yeah, well, I thank you so much for your time today and sharing all of this and shedding a little bit more light about the bill. And so if people do want to sign the bill, I know that there is a petition out. And you can sign until June 30th. I believe they just extended it, and so I will link that in the description. And if you have any questions, you can obviously reach out to me.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much.